Yesterday, my daughter sent me a couple of scriptures, and she sent me a message saying, I never noticed these before, but they seemed like really good scriptures to keep in your heart and share with people who don't know how to pray for God's will. Here are the scriptures. James 4:3. When you ask, you do not receive because you ask with wrong motives, that you may spend what you get on your pleasures. And the second is Psalms 66, verse 18. If I had cherished sin in my heart, the Lord would not have listened. I thought this would be, I've done videos on this before, how to pray in God's name, but I thought this would be a good opportunity to talk about this again. Talk about, again, what God's name is, what he stated his name to be. In Exodus 3:13, Moses said to God, suppose I go to the Israelites and say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they ask me, what is his name? Then what shall I tell them? God said to Moses, I am who I am. This is what you are to say to the Israelites. I am has sent me to you. God also said to Moses, say to the Israelites, the Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, has sent me to you. This is my name forever, the name you shall call me from generation to generation. Okay, he's made a statement. This is my name forever, and it is the name you are to call me from generation to generation. So it's important. So let's go to Blue Letter Bible and let's look up in Strong's what this word actually is, because it's not the word that people are using. The word that God used, the original word that God used is Strong's H 1961. The word is hayah. It is a verb. It is not a proper noun. The reason why you get versions of this word that are proper nouns like Yah and Yahweh is because human beings decided that God's name couldn't be a verb. It had to be a proper noun. Well, when God brought the Israelites out of Egypt, he said, I made a name for myself. And none of the Israelites said, oh, what name? What name is that? They understood that God's name is what he did, is what he's doing, is what he's revealing, is what he's fulfilling. And that's what hayah means. I was, I am to come. Is that the language that God uses in the word? I was, I am to come, I'm being revealed, I'm the beginning and the end, the Alpha and the Omega. Well, let's take a look at the definition of hayah, this verb that he stated his name to be. God didn't make a mistake. No human being needs to go around correcting God. To be, become, come to pass, exist, happen, fall out. To come into being, to become, to arise, appear, come. Okay, so what God is doing, his will, what he's fulfilling, is his name. So when God says to pray in his name, and whatever you ask for in his name, in his will, what he's doing, what he's fulfilling, what is his plan, his desire, if you rend your heart to that and you pray in that, why would he not give that to you? Of course he's going to give it to you. And that's the reason why James was correcting the people and saying, you're not getting what you want because you're not praying with the right motives. You're praying so that you can have what you want. Wake up, Christianity. Wake up, Christians. How are you praying? You praying for your empire? You praying for what you want because you don't understand that you have to give him his rights to you, that you don't belong to yourself, that he didn't bring you here to be comfy, that he didn't bring you here to build your empire, that you are here for a purpose, and that purpose has everything to do with what he set you apart to be. And if you don't rend your heart to that, you will not make it. What are you cherishing in your heart? What are your motives in praying and in what you ask for? Does it have to do with you, or does it have to do with him and what he's doing? Because last I checked, he's the one running the show. He's the one who created us, and he has a purpose in each of us that we can't possibly know if we're not rending our heart to what he wants, to what he wants to do with us. How does he want to use us? Very literally, this is the way that we have to live on a daily basis. But it's not the way I see people who identify themselves as Christian. It is not the way I see them living. It is not even close to their repertoire of how they're supposed to be living, of what it means to be a Christian, of what it means to be circumcised from the sinful flesh and from this world to be redeemed, because when you redeem something, that means you've purchased it and you get to do whatever you want with that thing you've purchased. You don't ever go buy something and then that thing tells you what you're going to do with it. You have a master. At the end of the day, you're going to belong to something because that's how you've been designed. And if you want him to be your master, then you need to receive who you need to become. Give him his rights to you. We all lived at one time in the passions of our mind and body, in the passions of our physical flesh. And the passions of our physical flesh are the sinful flesh. That's what our physical flesh wants. But when you are in the covenant of circumcision, you must begin to live in the place where Jesus said you are willing, because he says the flesh is weak. And Jesus says the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. And the word tells us we're going to be justified in our hearts. And the word tells us that when God makes us a new creation, that he removes our heart of stone, places in us a heart of flesh, a softened heart, places his spirit in our heart, and he begins to move us to follow his laws and keep his decrees. You are going to have to live in a different way and become a different creation. And when you pray, you are going to have to pray according to his desires. And in order to do that, you're going to have to rend your heart to what it is he desires. This is the reason why Jesus prayed in the way that he did. Here is what I'm asking of you, but not my will, yours. Your will be done, Father. I try to use this example from Esther, because when Esther would approach King Ahasuerus or King Xerxes, she would say, if I've won your favor, and if you're pleased with me, and if you think it a good thing to do, here's my petition. Now, if Queen Esther would do that with her human king, how much more are we required to do that with the King of Kings? To go to him in reverence rather than impetuous flesh for our own desires, but in reverence for his will. Seeking and pursuing what he knows is good, not what we think with our own understanding is good. We need to be thinking in terms of, how do I fit into this plan that God has? How do I fit into this body? What is it that I'm supposed to be doing? What is my responsibility here in this body that he is forming to be a kingdom of priests? And am I living in congruence with him? Am I pleasing him? Have I won his favor? Am I walking in the trust that he has already given me correctly? Because if I am not doing that, I'm never going to be given more. You remember that Jesus talks about that? You do well with what you have, and you're going to be given more if you are a good and faithful servant. And the more that you're going to be given is what you're going to be doing in his kingdom. Because he has said elsewhere in Scripture through Paul that anyone who wants to serve in his house, who wants to be an overseer, which is essentially what you are when you're a priest of God, must be above reproach and must be managing his own house well. If you are not managing your own house, how is he ever going to promote you to manage his? You must become what he has set you apart to be. And that's going to require you to circumcise from all of the desires that you have had in your flesh. From all of the desires that the world tries to pull you back into. From this worldly understanding that you're here to be comfortable, and so that's how you pray. You pray for comfort. I don't think so. Early Christians weren't comfortable, guys. Neither were early Jews. You know, this is not like, this is the reason why over and over in Scripture God tells his people, don't be afraid. Trust me. Why would he say don't be afraid if they're so comfy? Because the things that he requires of us, the ways he requires us to stand in faith, the things that he puts us through in order to test whether or not we have faith, are not comfortable. Think about what's written here, because all of us have done this. Think about what's written here in James 4:3. When you ask, you do not receive, because you ask with wrong motives, that you may spend what you get on your pleasures. Not on the will of God, not on what he's doing, on his kingdom. You know, you're supposed to be praying, your kingdom come, your will be done. Aren't you supposed to be a part of that, or are you just praying it? You just praying it out into the air? You're supposed to be a part of that. Light of the world, salt of the earth. He's building your testimony. He's building your lampstand. That's the platform on which he's going to place his light and testify to what he's built in you. If you aren't being built, how are you ever going to be that? And you do realize that in Revelation 2 and 3, he says, if you don't get it together, he's going to take away your lampstand. He's going to take away the very platform that he has set you apart to be built and to fulfill your covenant through that. He's going to take it away. And you know what that means? You won't be saved. This is not a suggestion. It's a command. It is a command. It is your covenant that you must not continue to live as though you belong to yourself. You must learn how to be the clay who submits to the potter. You must become what he is making you into by his hands, which means it's not going to be comfy. It's not going to bode well with the world. The world is not going to like what you become. The world is not going to like the things you have to say. But see, Jesus said that if the world likes you, it's because you belong to it. Please discern this message with God.